You know that feeling, right? You get this gorgeous bouquet of flowers, and you just want that little bit of joy to last forever. But then, a few days later, they start to droop, and the water in the vase, well, let's just say it gets a little funky. Today, we're going to dive into the microscopic science of what is really happening inside that vase, and more importantly, how you can help your flowers win the battle for a longer, more beautiful life.
All right, first up, let's talk about the most obvious and honestly, the most unpleasant sign that something has gone very, very wrong. I'm talking about that stinky, cloudy water.
It's something we've all experienced, isn't it? You start with fresh, crystal clear water, and in what feels like no time at all, it's this murky, smelly swamp. So what on earth is going on in there? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, and yeah, a little bit gross.
Yep, there it is. The main culprit, as one Reddit user so perfectly put it, is basically a massive, out-of-control party of bacteria and other microbes. And they're not just making the water smell bad, oh no. They're actively waging a war against your beautiful flowers.
Okay, so we've identified our villain, bacteria. Now let's zoom way in and take a look at the crime scene. Because to really understand what's happening, you have to see how these tiny invaders take down a flower from the inside out.
And here it is. This is the smoking gun, folks. What you're looking at is a microscopic view from inside a flower stem. You see all those little specks? That's our bacterial army, and they're creating a blockade, literally clogging up the works and choking the flower from the inside.
To get the full picture, you need to know about the flower's plumbing system. It's called the xylem. The easiest way to think about it is like a tight bundle of microscopic drinking straws. When those straws are clear, water flows right up to the bloom. But the second they get clogged by bacteria, well, it's pretty much game over.
So you can basically break down a cut flower's entire existence into this constant fight for survival. On one side, it desperately needs three things: water, food, and a clean environment. But on the other side, it's up against some pretty nasty enemies. Air bubbles that can block the pipes, all that bacteria we just saw, and of course, good old-fashioned starvation.
And this is what it looks like when the flower starts losing that battle. We have all seen this sad, sad sight, the classic bent neck. It happens because the xylem in the stem is so clogged up with bacteria that it just can't get enough water up to the heavy bloom to support its weight. The poor thing is literally dying of thirst.
Now, to try and win this fight, people have come up with all sorts of homemade hacks over the years. I'm sure you've heard of them, right? A little bit of 7-Up, a drop of bleach, maybe you've even heard of tossing an aspirin in the water. But do any of them actually work? Let's see how they stack up against the science.
You know, the crazy thing is, the ideas behind these home remedies are surprisingly scientific. Seriously, lemon lime soda gives the flower sugar for food and citric acid, which helps with water uptake. Bleach, that's a biocide. It's meant to kill all that bacteria. And things like aspirin or lime juice, they're acidifiers, which can also help water flow. So the principles are actually sound. But is the execution any good?
And that right there is the catch. While the theories make sense, researchers have found that pretty much all of these DIY recipes just don't hold up in real scientific tests. The biggest problem is getting the balance right. See, too much sugar can actually make the bacteria problem worse, and too much bleach can literally poison the flower. It's almost impossible to get that mix perfect in your kitchen.
So what happens when you actually put all of this to the test in a controlled lab experiment? All right, let's get to the main event, the showdown between plain water, those homemade recipes, and that little packet of commercial flower food.
And whoa, the results are pretty darn striking. Just look at this. Flowers in plain water, they lasted about a week. The homemade recipes, they were all over the place. Some even did worse than plain water. But the flowers that got the commercial flower food, they lasted almost twice as long. We're talking nearly 2 full weeks.
And if you need visual proof, it's even more dramatic. I mean, just look at these roses after 9 days. The bouquet on the left with the flower food, it still looks fresh, vibrant, amazing. The one on the right in contaminated water, it is completely wilted and collapsing. It's no contest.
It's the exact same story with these gerbera daisies. Look at the stems on the left. They're strong, they're holding the flowers up high. Then look at the ones on the right. They can barely even support the blooms. I mean, the visual evidence is just overwhelming.
So we've seen the science, we've seen the data. Now for the fun part. Let's translate all of this into a super simple, super effective action plan that you can use to keep your flowers looking amazing for as long as humanly possible. So what does this all mean? It means that little packet of white powder that comes with your bouquet, it is not just a friendly suggestion, it's a scientifically balanced weapon. It has the perfect lab-tested mix of food, acid, and bacteria killers to help your flowers win their fight for survival.
All right, so here it is, your final checklist for fresh flowers. 1. Start with a sparkling clean vase. 2. Always use that flower food packet. 3. Give the stems a fresh cut, at least an inch off the bottom. Pro tip, do it underwater to prevent air bubbles. 4. Pull off any leaves that would end up sitting below the waterline because they'll just rot and feed bacteria. And 5. Refresh the water and add new flower food every 2 or 3 days. That's it.
So the next time someone hands you a beautiful bouquet, the real question is this: are you going to see just a pretty arrangement, or are you going to see the incredible microscopic battle for survival happening inside every single stem? Because now you know that by following these simple steps, you're not just putting flowers in water. You're becoming their most important ally in that fight and making all that beauty last so much longer.